Don't worry, Chimera players, I didn't forget about you. Hey guys, Otak here, back with another video of the Chimera variety, and today we're going to be taking a look at Chimera Hecahands. Venom Revengers comes out this week as of recording this video, and with it comes Hecahands, a brand new archetype that is predominantly based around stealing your opponent's monsters and using them to establish their own board. If you'd like to know more on the Hecahand cards themselves and have an actual introduction to them, I have a whole introductory guide. I'll put the link down in the description below. Definitely give that a look. But the entire archetype is illusion monsters, and what better way to play illusion monsters than a deck that can generically search them? I've been saying since the release of Chimera back in Duelist Nexus that the super generic searching function off of Gazelle's effect when he is used as fusion material to search any illusion monster is going to severely hold back the illusion typing going forward, because it just means that any illusion monster is searchable and it is very, very easy to just abuse. And sure enough, the Hecahands archetype looks fairly promising. Now, I do want to put out a quick disclaimer. This is by no means an in-depth guide to Hecahands Chimera. This is not the end-all be-all build. I am just doing Hecahands Chimera, whereas people might splash in Fiendsmith. There's going to be probably a lot of different builds for this deck. So if you're looking for something way more in-depth, this is not the place to get it. Now, if you want something more in-depth, definitely let me know in the comments down below, and I will certainly try to do so. Now, if you want something more in-depth for how to play Chimera the deck, not just Chimera Hecahands or Chimera Fiendsmith, but Chimera as a whole, I have plenty of videos. I have a whole playlist of Chimera videos, all of which are anything from in-depth guides to just random deck builds. So definitely take a look at all those as well. And before we do jump on into the deck list, I have noticed that a great deal of you that are watching this video right now are not currently subscribed to the channel. So if you like competitive-based content, whether it's in-depth guides, market watches, or more, then consider subscribing to the channel. But also, definitely leave a like on this video and comment down below your thoughts on Hecahands Chimera. I am trying to surpass 2,500 subscribers before Christmas, which is right around the corner, so any and all support is greatly appreciated. And if you would like to further support the channel, then consider joining my community Discord, follow me over at Twitch, and using my TCG affiliate link, or if you would like to save 15% off the next time you buy a new deck box, playmat, or even some brand new card sleeves, then consider using my Dueling Guard affiliate link. All links will be in the description down below. Alright, so here is the build. I'm still tweaking things out, but this is a general foundation of where I have come as like a mindset on the deck. The entire Hecahands archetype is illusion monsters, which means they are incredibly searchable off of Nightmare Apprentice, which can search any illusion monster upon summon, or the Gazelle King of Mythical Claws, which can search any illusion monster when used as a fusion material. So very, very easy to find these cards. The problem you may run into is that the Hecahands cards don't really get into Chimera. It's pretty much a one-way streak. Like, that's why we're predominantly building Chimera and having a small Hecahands engine, and the only cards we are playing at multiple copies is Goddess, which is a turn 0 play on your opponent's turn if you lose the die roll, or Yadel or Ibdel, which are starters. And then when I say turn 0 plays, if you lose the die roll for Goddess, Goddess does a lot more than just summoning himself if your opponent adds a card, because Brius and Gygus do that as well. But Goddess takes it one step further, and he's actually on your opponent's turn able to activate his effect to steal a monster out of their graveyard, which means he has some level of interactivity on your opponent's turn. Whereas the other two are ignition effects that can only activate on your turn, so if you summon them on your opponent's turn, they just kind of sit there. Now, the reason that we are only running like small amounts of copies of the big guys is, for the most part, they are bricks. Unless your opponent is adding cards to their hand, they aren't really doing anything. However, if your opponent activates Fool Loss on you, you are able to summon these guys, so it can help you get bodies onto the board, which can help. At the same time, you're going to still probably be giving them more cards in the long run, which obviously isn't beneficial to any player. We are running one Brius and one Gygus. Again, they are just the one-ofs. They're the big guys that can be bricks if you don't have any further plays to play around them. We're playing Goddess because, again, it is a turn 0 play. It has the ability to summon itself on your opponent's turn, because every deck adds cards in some way, shape, or form these days, and it has the ability to interact with your opponent's graveyard on their turn, so that's why we're playing it too. I would be playing this card at 3 if I could, but I want to keep the deck at a solid 40. We are then playing 3 Yadel and 3 Ibdel. These are the starters. Yadel can search the Hecahands, which then can get the Ibdel, and the Ibdel can get these guys. Ibdel can get these guys, and these, if you summon Gygus, then you can make the Jaza. Jaza can get to the Yadel, and it's one big cycle. It's one big circle. Regardless of which one you have to start with, you are going to regardless get to the same result. The big perks with Ibdel that I think Chimera will be able to benefit off of more than maybe any other Hecahands deck at the current moment at least, is Ibdel when it's sent to the graveyard can summon a Hecahands other than itself from the graveyard, which means that it has some sort of recursion because it's an illusion monster, so we can use it as fusion material. So if we do open more than one, or we open one and we then proceed to search one, we can then kind of take advantage of its graveyard effect to be a Tau, essentially, but only for the Hecahands monsters. Being able to recycle the Hecahands monsters, especially the big guys. As for the rest of the Hecahands cards, we are playing 3 hidden Hecahands because it's just a free searcher that can get the counter trap set. We're playing one of each counter trap. You can play more than one. I personally would probably be playing one of the Monster Gate in the side, so you have like that secondary copy just in case, because it is just a very strong card. And then we're playing only one Tartarus. Tartarus is just here to get us to the Xeno, which is insane amounts of advantage against your opponent. But as for the Chimera stuff, we're playing 3 Nightmare Apprentice because it can search out any of these guys, so she is basically 3 more copies of all of these dudes. We're playing 2 Baphomet. In most Chimera builds, I only play 1 Baphomet. I can very rarely ever recommend more than 1 Baphomet. However, his ability to summon out illusions from the graveyard when he uses fusion material is a lot more beneficial in this version of the deck than any other Chimera version we have run across so far, because being able to summon out one of these fuckers is really good, getting them out of the graveyard. We're then playing 2 Mirror Sword Knight. It's just one of the starters, however, it loses harder to Ash Blossom. 3 of Gazelle, because it can search out any of these guys once it uses fusion material, so it's just 3 more copies. We're playing 3 Kodal, because it's one of our starters. 3 Fualos. I'm not a big hand trap fan when it comes to Chimera. For those who've been on the channel for a very long time, I'm a big advocate of not playing hand traps in Chimera. If that is something you do, more power to you. I just think that hand traps in Chimera are not as helpful, because in a fusion-based deck like Chimera, you are very much reliant off of resources in hand. The unfortunate truth is that none of the hand trap monsters like Ash Blossom and Droll Lockbird meet the requirements for any of the Chimera guys. Yes, they can be used to make Guardian Chimera, but that's pretty much it. The only difference here is that Full Loss can get us so much a massive amount of advantage that can help us push through a board. And then, of course, you side this out if you're going first, because this gives you no benefit. We're then playing 1 Master Tau the Chanter. I have very, very, very rarely ever recommended this card. I hate this card so much. However, just like the 2 Baphomet, this has more advantage in this deck because all of the Hecahands are illusion monsters. So if you open the Master Tau, you can actually use like the Baphomet fusion monster to dump one of these guys, and then Tau to summon one of them back. The Baphomet and the Tau being able to summon the Hecahands back from the graveyard does apply this extra layer of interactability that you can get to the Hecahands cards even if you aren't able to like search them because your Apprentice or your Gazelle get like Ash Blossomed or something. Then we have 1 Called By, just because we had 1 extra slot in the deck and we want to have some interactability with Droll and Lockbird. The unfortunate truth here is that the Hecahands cards do not help the fact that this deck loses to Droll and Lockbird. In fact, it makes it worse because the Hecahand cards do a lot of searching, especially with Yadel and the hidden Hecahand searching monsters. If you're under Droll and Lockbird, then you can't use the secondary effect of the hidden Hecahands to make your opponent draw a card because they can't add cards from deck to hand. Droll and Lockbird hurts a lot, just like it has for the dawn of Chimera. The only difference is like the Fiendsmith cards were always kind of able to play around it, whereas in this version of the deck, not so much. 3 of Chimera Fusion, because it's the most reliant card in the deck. We need it to function half of our extra deck. 3 Forbidden Droplet, just to kind of like break boards, but also just a generically good card in the current format. It helps take down Yummy. It can help take down an Arthalion that gets summoned on your turn. Just a generically good card. As for the extra deck, we are playing 1 Xeno. We only need 1 of this because we are only really ever summoning the 1. And more times than not, we actually just sometimes don't end on it at all. Not because we don't want to, but sometimes we just can. And we don't always have the hand that allows us to end on this. 1 Guardian Chimera, because again, just helps us break boards, helps us keep the opponent from establishing a board, just a good card. We are definitely throwing in the Illusion Beast. A lot of people that have been playing Chimera, for a long time have actually been cutting the Illusion Beast. I never understood that because it is always been your OTK strategy. However, with the massive amounts of illusion monsters in the deck now, this is mandatory in my opinion. Like, if you do not run this, you're just asking to lose. I just genuinely believe that, because you can get to the point where this card is probably close to like 7 attacks. Like, it's an insane card. Play Magnum the Reliever. I've been teetering on this because we are only running the Chimera fusions. We're not running like Poly or anything, and Magnum Reliever gets better the more fusion or polymerization spells you're running. So I've been considering cutting this, but for now, it's just like a good, generically good fusion monster to make. 2 of the Jowza, I've actually been contemplating running 3 of this because it is just a good card and keeps the Hecahands engine running. 2 of the Baphomet because, again, it's the most flexible card in the deck. You're going to probably end up summoning this more often than the next guy, which is Chimera King of Phantom Beasts. He's here because he brings guys back from the graveyard. He also hand rips on end phase, just a good card. Big thing to note here is sometimes you get to a point where your Tartarus, because when it fusion summons, banishes the materials. And sometimes if you're trying to end on the Xeno, you have to banish your materials for the most part unless you open this card, or you get to a good opening hand where you can search this card off of something else that, again, you banish your materials and you're banishing your Hecahand monsters. And we don't have a lot to go around because the ones that 9 times out of 10 end up in the graveyard are these 4 right here. So you basically lose your access to most of your Hecahand's cards. And that's where I think the Baphomet really comes in handy because he can revive illusion monsters from the banish pile. So it gets them back in rotation, banishing like the Goddess and then using Baphomet to bring it back from the banish pile so then Goddess can still interact on your opponent's turn with their graveyard is really good. Playing the Chaos Angel just because it's a hard bitch to out if you make it using the Nightmare Apprentice and the Mirror Sword Knight, but you can also use it making the Yadel or the Ibdel with the Mirror Sword Knight. Playing 1 Typhon, this is just kind of like the oh shit button, like you don't have a better thing to do. Then we're playing Lars. This card doesn't always come up. If you end up locking yourself into fusions, then this doesn't come up, and you quite often do lock yourself into fusions in this deck because just the hands can get a little wonky at times. But one thing to note is that Yadel and Ibdel are level 6s to go alongside the Nightmare Apprentice, the Chimera, and the Baphomet. So you do have avenues to make Lars, and Lars is just a good card. It's an Omni Negate, essentially, on, your opponent's field. And then we have the IP, the SP, and the Muckraker. Muckraker is just a good card because sometimes you don't want to lock yourself into fusion early, but you want to make sure you end on the Chimera fusion. So you summon Muckraker, bring back the Baphomet from the graveyard, and then you search Chimera fusion and Gazelle, so you have more recursion. Another reason too that play is good is because then when you ultimately end up fusing the Gazelle that you search to your hand off of the Big Wing Baphomet, you then, when you make Guardian Chimera, you can use the Gazelle in the same chain to search out whichever guy maybe didn't hit the board, preferably Goddess. And then Goddess, when your opponent adds a card to their hand, will special himself. And again, more interactability on your opponent's turn. All right, so I'm only going to show off 1 combo. And for those who have been on the channel for a while or playing Chimera for a while, you understand that a Chimera combo is not just black and white. It is very, very much hand dependent. So what I'm going to do here is just show you what you can get accomplished off of just Nightmare Apprentice. You could technically do the same thing if you open like Gazelle plus Chimera Fusion, and then you search the Baphomet. Like you can do pretty similar to the same thing if you opened like Gazelle or you open Mirror Sword Knight. But this is just simply what you can accomplish off of 1 card plus a discard, obviously. Just like I said in the disclaimer for the deck list, I'm going to say it here for the combo as well. This is probably not the most optimal way to play the combo. I'm just trying to show kind of like a basic understanding of where 1 card can get you in this version of the deck. We're going to go ahead and start our turn and inherit summon the Nightmare Apprentice by discarding a card. Activates effect to add the Cornfield Codal, and if they have Droll, we lose. But if they don't have Droll, which this is what we're going to assume, then we're fine. We go Cornfield Codal effect, add the Mirror Sword Knight, because we want to be able to get to everything, essentially. We're going to normal summon the Mirror Sword Knight effect to summon out the Big Wing Baphomet. Big Wing Baphomet, add the Gazelle and the Chimera Fusion. We're then going to go Chimera Fusion, fuse the Baphomet and the Gazelle away to make Chimera. We're going to go chain 1 Gazelle, chain 2 Baphomet, target the Mirror Sword Knight, chain 3 Chimera. We'll summon out that Mirror Sword Knight. We will add the Yadel here. Again, the Yadel can get you to the rest of the Hecahands cards. Like, the Hecahand cards are a really cool way to, like, they all kind of attach to each other. Like, they all kind of intertwine that you basically end on the same shit. But Yadel kind of is the one you want to start with. We'll activate the Chimera Fusion to add it back to hand. We will then activate Yadel, shuffle it back to add the hidden Hecahands. We will activate the Hidden Hecahands, and we will use its cost by sending the Mirror Sword Knight to the graveyard to add the Ibdal and set the All Hecahands, which is the monster negate counter trap. We will then activate the Chimera Fusion, make the Baphomet the mythical king of Phantom Beasts, activate its effect to dump the goddess. We will activate the Ibdal to summon out the Gygus and shuffle it back. Gygus effect to look at the opponent's top 3 cards, summon out a monster from one of them. And then we will make the Jowza. We will Jowza effect to search out the goddess from the graveyard, but you can also search it out from the deck, which does mean that we invalidate the dump off of the Baphomet effect. We could have done better with that. We could have also, if we had another Hecahands card in rotation, we could actually search out the Tartarus, and the Tartarus could then summon out the Xeno, and then Xeno has interaction on our opponent's turn by eating their extra deck, essentially. But that is also a way to kind of play around Droll. If you have more resources in your hand, the Jowza does add from graveyard, which means if you're under Droll, you can still activate its effect as long as you have a target in the graveyard. So you can actually use the Baphomet to dump a guy to the graveyard, and if you're under Droll, then you summon out Jowza. Jowza, add back from the graveyard. That is just another way to play around Droll and Lockbird. The reason we want Goddess in rotation, again, is if our opponent adds a card to their hand, we will then summon him, and then we will proceed to eat away from their graveyard. But in this example, we're going to activate the Hidden Hecahands, make our opponent draw a card, discard a card, and because they added a card on resolution, Goddess effect to summon himself. And I do want to do a real quick reminder that the Hecahands monsters act very similar to Grunix and Ponix for Fire King. I said this in the introductory guide, and I'm going to say it again. If your opponent adds a card to hand and you have 2 Hecahand monsters in your hand, you cannot use both of their effects in the same chain to summon themselves. You're going to have to choose one, summon them, and then you're going to have to wait for your opponent to add again if you want to be able to summon the second one. You cannot do both effects in the same chain. Now, for anyone who's looking at this end board and saying that this looks pretty weak, I can kind of agree. For the longest while, we've been playing these very explosive versions of Chimera. We've been playing the Fiendsmith cards, which have Desiree, Caesar, and all the likes. We've been playing Azamina that ends on like an Omni Negate, plus a bunch of other interaction. If you play like the Mo Regina and you have like the White Forest Azamina Sinful Spoils fusion spell, then you can pop 2 cards. You know, we have the LZ Azamina that is just another polymerization, essentially. I get it. Like, we've been playing very explosive, and this feels a lot more down to earth. But you do also have to remember, we did this with 1 card. We have the pseudo full Chimera end board, which is, you know, we have the Mirror Sword Knight in the Coral in the graveyard. We have the Chimera King of Phantom Beasts in the graveyard to revive a guy from graveyard. So we have all that. Yes, we don't have Chimera Fusion in hand or set, but we also have 4 other cards in hand, so there's a possibility maybe we ended on it, or, you know, we opened it, or we have ways to get to another one. Or if we tweaked the plays a little bit because we had 4 other cards to work with, we could have ended on Muckraker, which then could have gotten this Baphomet back instead of summoning it right out the gate and end on this card. Like, there are other ways we could have done this. This is just if we opened specifically Nightmare Apprentice and no other playable cards. Then for the rest of the end board, Jowza's just sitting here. He can't be destroyed by battle. Goddess can mess with your opponent's graveyard. We have a counter trap that will negate a monster effect, destroy it, and then summon it to your field. And it doesn't negate its effects when it's summoned to your field. So if it's an actually good monster, you might be able to use its effects, which is just something to keep in mind. But this is what we did off of just 1 card. Nightmare Apprentice. Nightmare Apprentice for this deck is just like what Diviner is for Yummy Mitsurugi Nuval. It is the bridge to everything. Nightmare Apprentice can get to both the Chimera and the Hecahands cards. Chimera in general can just get to Hecahands. Hecahands struggles. I've seen some other builds playing like Zombie Vampire to get 2 Jowza on the field to turn both Jowza into a Zombie Vampire and then go gambling like they do in Yummy Mitsurugi. I don't agree with it because then you're burning through both your Jowzas, which feels not that great. But I am, of course, curious to hear what you all think. So definitely let me know down in the comment section below. And if this video at all piqued your interest for Chimera Hecahands, then definitely let me know in the comment section below. And also, subscribe to the channel for more. Like I said, I am trying to break 2,500 subscribers before Christmas, and that is right around the corner. We are really close. We are less than 100 subscribers away. So definitely support the channel if this video was something you enjoyed. But with that, I'll see you all in the next one. See ya.